So when you go out to the second quarter, third quarter of 2022, you have a deflationary environment. That's going to be supportive for gold. Gold will act as a placeholder as people liquidate risk assets and they want to park their money somewhere. We saw there were a few issues that kind of derailed the breakout and the rally. And one of them was supply chain issues. Remember that silver, much of it, once it gets mined, it travels and makes its way to China, where it's goes into its end user product, whether it's an electronic, where most of it, or an industrial product, and then it gets distributed throughout the world. So that's where the bulk of silver demand's at. And when we saw this new COVID variant, that really kind of pumped the brakes on silver's distribution channels. So we started to come back there. And then when you go to the gold market, that also looked like it was going to break out. However, the Fed started getting more and more hawkish based on the data and trying to fight inflation. So since then, prices have come down and, we're at some of these lowest levels we've seen in a while. When you look at gold, so rewinding a few days ago, we got back to, the 1830 levels. Silver was at like 2330. We called a lot of our clients and we actually exited the positions there because of the fact that, it is yo-yoed back and forth and it comes up to that level and it just disappoints. So we wanted to book some gains, and then hopefully we saw some more hawkishness out of the Fed, and we also saw some better economic data, and that's what would bring gold and silver back on sale, like what we saw just after the jobs report. This is peak hawkishness right now. You look at, there's panic in the bond market, there's liquidation in the stock market. Everyone's talking about rates going higher, and the reality is that if you look at the bond market, that's already been priced in. So the stock market's pricing in 4 rate hikes this year and aggressive tapering. The reality is that the Fed is screwing up, just like what they did in 2018. They tightened into a slowing economic cycle. And what that does is it causes first disinflation, then deflation. So when you go out to the second quarter, third quarter of 2022, you have a deflationary environment. That's going to be supportive for gold. Gold will act as a placeholder as people liquidate risk assets and they want to park their money somewhere. Bitcoin is not panning out on this one because it's a reflation trade. It's a risk asset. So they're liquidating Bitcoin. They're going into gold. I hope that silver, being one of the worst performing commodities in 2021, has some of those supply chain issues resolved. The demand goes up. The supply has already been strained. And so I think that those prices go up as well. You could pull up the charts and highlight them in 2018. You'll see when the stock market peaks and it sells off into that tightening cycle, the tightening cycle. The Fed actually had to come out and reverse things, and they went immediately from tightening to loosening monetary policy. And I think that's what will end up happening again. Or they might not be able to do as many of the hikes as possible, and it's going to be a wait and see. So you might get 2 potential rate hikes. That's why I think gold's going to go back up to about 1900 this year. I think silver, it's always a wild card. Silver, if it's going to travel with gold and be proportionate, $1,900 gold's probably like $27 silver. But if silver gets that kind of demand push, that's where you could see that $30 to $35.
So you do see a possibility of it breaking that $30 level this year?
Yes, I do. I'm pretty confident on it. I mean, I was very confident in 2020, and then we saw that silver squeeze that was developing, where there was kind of that Red Army and the mindset. They were targeting it specific, so it became obvious at that point. But generally, we usually play for something like that and have long-term options on throughout the year anyways, and that's the type of event, because silver tends to move a bit erratically. So it doesn't give you as much heads up. So you already want to be positioned in there. Just like you got car insurance, you don't crash every day. You want to have that upside insurance for silver. So on silver, you have so many hurdles you have to clear. Basically, you just got to reverse course, take off over $23, 23.30 has been the recent high. $25 is the higher above that. We really got to take those out on closing basis. You need to have the miners not come in and start to hedge once we get to 25, and that's where that breakout could occur. Gold. So we bought quite a bit of gold at like 1785, just right after the jobs number. We had pushed up. We should push up through 1800. Once we get back to 1825, 1830, because we failed there so many times, we're probably going to take off a third of the position at 2/3 and then hold to see if we can break out to the upside. We close over 1850 on a strong basis. We'll probably get back in, come back up to full position and try and ride it up to 1900.
Your perspective on the downside for precious metals, because it seems like you're thinking we're pretty much possibly hit a bottom.
Yeah, I really believe so. When you start to think about it rationally, especially on silver, how cheap is too cheap? And, if you look at a long-term chart, and not going back many years, but the 2142 area, 2150 to 2142 has held several times. So that's where we're going to be adding another contract if we get that low. But when you start getting into the teens and you start talking about 18, 17, 16, at what price level will it stop, or will people just take delivery of everything that's out there? And I think that's what would occur. So I don't see prices back in the teens, because I'm going to have to rethink my own strategy. How much physical do I want to then try and accumulate again from the exchange? Gold, on the other hand, it could have wider ranges. If you do have the Fed tighten the 4 times and things really start to unravel, gold could go back down to about that 1685. That's been that next major support level that's held throughout the last couple of years.
What do you see for the stock market in 2022?
I believe that the correction had already started on the stock market, and we'd already seen that this peak height coming into the beginning of the year. Now, every correction that we've had over the last 2 years, it's been strongly advisable to buy these corrections. However, what I think is different is that the economic data is going to clearly disappoint in the beginning of the year, and it's going to lead into the second half. So the last time the Fed had tapered in 2013, this was Ben Bernanke, we saw about a 5% correction on the stock market. I believe we'll see something greater than that because of the elevated price levels that we're at right now. So a 10% correction wouldn't be out of the ordinary. If you get the 10% correction, you might get the Fed rethinking their rate hike strategy. And that's what I think that could put a floor in the market, where you start seeing them flip back from hawkish to dovish.
Definitely. And as for cryptocurrencies, are there any particular ones you're looking at this year?
Yeah, so the problem with Bitcoin is that it's been institutionalized. All the big players own it, countries own it, less individuals own Bitcoin. So I think that is kind of that cryptocurrencies came to its full maturity, and it's actually being liquidated right now. I think Ethereum is your better one to play, especially if we get that drop below 3,000, which is what we look like we're going to do. I'd say about closer to 1,500 to 2,000 will provide some long-term value because of the way the product is set up and the product's uses.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.